Hello and welcome. Today is World Sight Day and the theme this year is Children Love Your Eyes, as the WHO has gone on to say that it's an opportunity to draw specific attention when it comes to child eye health. This is how the screen would look for the visually impaired. Today is World Sight Day and the WHO tagline for this year, like we mentioned, is Children Love Your Eyes. So we focus on pediatric myopia that affects an estimated 5% of preschoolers and about 9% of school-age children and 30% of adolescents. Research shows that reducing screen time and spending time outdoors in order to protect the eyes of your children from developing a short-sightedness, which means that parents and caregivers and educators have a central role to play in protecting the vision of our future generation. And to get more on this, we have with us Nikhil Masurkar joining us. He is the CEO of Entor Pharmaceutical Limited, as well as we have Dr. Ranjana Mittal joining us, as well as Richa Kapoor. She is a parent of a 19-year-old and a 9-year-old. And we also have with us Dr. Shankar joining us, Dr. Varshni Shankar joining us from the Shroff Eye Clinic. Let me take my first question across to, in fact, the CEO, Mr. Nikhil Masurkar, he is representing Entor for the session. And let's just ask about how can the pharma industry contribute to the awareness when it comes to myopia and children's health issues?
Yeah, good morning. Firstly, thanks for having me on your show. So I think the pharma industry in India has a duty of care when it comes to the public and in terms of contributing towards public health. Myopia is called as the silent pandemic. The prevalence of myopia has considerably increased since the lockdowns, since the COVID pandemics. In fact, in India, it's shown that almost 1 in 4 children may have myopia. So the problem is bigger than what we think. And I think the way pharma industry can contribute is to actively run campaigns throughout the year in collaboration with eye doctors, with teachers, with students, and with parents, so that a genuine awareness is created. It should be an annual awareness program. There's a lot that can be done. For example, in our case, we do this National Myopia Week every year, which has also been very successful for us. But moving forward, I think a lot more engagements need to be done between the medical profession and the pharma industry. And I think we have a long way to go in terms of really creating the awareness.
Of course, let's just also get in Dr. Shankar here. When we talk about, like Mr. Masurkar mentioned, 1 in 4 children in India, but more than 1 in 3 children as far as the global stats are concerned. These are children and teenagers worldwide. They are short-sighted. What is the reason that we are seeing for this spike in figures?
So there are 3 main reasons for children becoming short-sighted. This may be genetic, there may be ethnic factors, but most importantly, what we can control are the environmental factors. So too much time spent indoors, too much time spent on devices, too much time spent on near activities, and not enough outdoor playtime, not enough sunlight exposure are the main reasons why myopia is increasing very rapidly in India and globally.
Of course, let's also get in Richa Kapoor, who is a parent. When we talk about the average age at which children have started using screens, that has fallen over the past decade. Earlier, kids as little as 3 to 5 years were the ones who were, starting to use laptops or iPads or, were introduced to screen time. But now that's fallen to 12 to 18 months. So, babies as young as 1 year, 1.5 years are, glued to their laptops or glued to their iPads. Of course, it's the parents who are giving the kids these devices. How can we make parents more aware of the dangers when it comes to screen time?
I think, of course, as you mentioned, parents are the ones who actually introduce their children, and it's for small conveniences. Sometimes you just want them to finish a meal, or sometimes you just want to keep them entertained these days. The distances, the traffic, I mean, all of these become very practical problems. They're family sizes are smaller and they don't have too much company to keep them so busy. Parents are working, so you tend to resort to these things. But I think we've all seen how, especially after the pandemic, and because of increased screen time, the children have really suffered. And it's very, very important that parents should be made aware of how excessive screen time and lack of physical activity is dangerous for the children.
Right. We also have Dr. Mittal with us. When it comes to the right age, what is the right age to introduce one's child to screen time?
See, I think the right age is the school, when the children start going to school, and they should be. Am I audible? I mean, like.
Please go
Hello?
ahead. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think the moment they start school, all schools should have a eye testing program for children so that we can detect myopia at an early stage. And that's what in the earlier question, we can have a role of a farmer in that. A farmer can, along with the doctors, they can run programs, preventive eye checkup programs in various schools. And that's the time we can detect at an early stage.
Right. Of course, when we talk about the impact of myopia when it comes to India, let's talk about this, as far as, the health issue is concerned. How serious is the issue here in India? Mr. Nikhil Masurkar.
So as I said, in India, right now, it's estimated that 1 in 4 children may have myopia. However, the worrying stat is, as per the current trends, it's expected that by 2050, almost 50% of our children and teens would be myopic, which would probably be in the range of 600 to 700 million children and teens. So that's a very worrying kind of estimate. We don't want to be living in a world where 1 in 2 children would be myopic by 2050. So it's I think it's a worrying fact, and I think there's a lot that can be done. I think the focus should be on digital eye wellness and kind of good tech habits, which should be inculcated into children right from the time they're very young. And I think this is where the pharma industry and the doctors together can create an impact. We started the awareness of myopia actually in 2015. At that time, it was hardly known. It wasn't such a big thing. But now it's kind of, gone almost, you can say, out of control. But the fact that we are having this here, this program, and, we have all these awareness campaigns, I think gives us hope. And I'm sure in the future, we can go a long way towards creating the right awareness. And I think children need to be on board as well, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to be, potentially suffering from this.
Right. When we talk about myopia or nearsightedness, it's a condition in which distant objects are blurry, but close objects look very clear. Dr. Shankar, when we talk about the symptoms, if you could, describe for us, which is a way to, find out if one's child perhaps is suffering from short-sightedness.
So the first thing I would recommend that your child should go in for a routine eye checkup, whether they have any symptoms or not. Because children usually cannot appreciate that their vision is subnormal. What they see is what they feel is normal. So a routine checkup for early detection is a good idea. The first screening or a screening evaluation should be done at about 1 year of age, followed by a complete eye exam at 3 to 4 years of age when they are about to start school. But some symptoms which you can watch out for: one, if the parents are myopic, the children are more likely to be myopic. So you should be proactive about getting them tested early. Other than that, the child may have irritable red eyes, may rub the eyes frequently, may go close to the blackboard or board in order to copy things in the classroom. They may go very close to the TV to watch it, and they may hold books close to the eye. So these are some symptoms which you can watch out for, but a routine eye examination, a complete eye examination with a specialist is a better idea.
Right. Of course, when we talk about myopia, it typically starts very early on, early childhood, and it tends to worsen with age. when we, is it gender based in terms of, would you say that myopia impacts girls more than say boys, Dr. Shankar?
So there are a few studies which show that, but rather than differentiating between girls and boys, I think we need to look at the kind of activities which the child indulges in. So if a child is very outdoorsy, spends a lot of time in sports, outdoors, doesn't have too much near work, that child is likely to be less susceptible versus a child who tends to be more introverted and more into indoor activities.
Right. Dr. Mittal, would you say a one arm's distance should be a cardinal rule, a standard rule while screening? Would you say that, what kind of distance should one, ideally be maintaining while, say, using laptops or even televisions, as, children tend to stand very close to even big screens?
So first thing, we have to make our children aware that how they are going to use these digital screens, because there are certain rules for that, like because after the COVID and most of the school homeworks are given online. So there has to be a precautions taken, and certain thing, what is the distance of the should be there. So the precautions are that every 20 minutes they should give a break, look into distance. They should taught to blink their eyes so that they are not constantly straining. And the distance has to be like within 25 to 33 centimeter, what is the reading thing. And they have to be encouraged to play outdoors. There has been studies which shown that children who have been playing outside at least for 4 to 6 hours, which is little difficult in India because of the school pressure and homework. So, but putting less time on screens and more into outdoor activities, that can decrease the incidence of myopia in children.
Right, let's get in Richa Kapoor. Of course, as a parent, how do you encourage children from going out? Of course, there is a problem as far as the weather conditions are concerned. Sometimes pollution is a big issue. When we talk about, the dengue season which is going on. So how do you make sure that you can, encourage your children to be outdoors when there are these issues at hand as well?
Yes, it is quite challenging considering all the factors that you have just mentioned, and especially because of these children really want to stay indoors with so much more exciting stuff, that alternatives inside. But it's one very important that they have the right kind of friends in the neighborhood, and many times one has to accompany them to build in that kind of habit. Try to see what are the kind of things that they really enjoy, what are the things that they really want to do, be flexible with that time. So for example, if my son prefers scooting or just cycling and free play, I would encourage that, because he does not like any other sport. He plays a lot of chess, and that is an indoor activity. So I have to make a lot of effort to take him out, and these are the things that I try using. Other than that, in his room itself, I've made sure that there is ample sunlight and access to a little balcony when he wants to play.
Right. So, considering the facts that the size of the homes are getting smaller, and, in fact, when it comes to little children, they need to be outdoors. They need to look, really far away in order to maintain that distance. So, we were just heard the doctor speak about, blinking a lot, taking a break every 20 minutes for, say, 20 seconds. What is really that rule? Dr. Shankar, if you could explain to us.
So it is called the 20-20-20 rule, which means that if your child is on a screen, make sure that they stop using the screen after 20 minutes and take a break for at least 20 seconds and look at something which is far away or 20 feet away.
Right. So every 20 minutes one needs to blink, and probably this problem is arising from what we are hearing, as reports are suggesting that the children are blinking less.
So when you look at a screen, automatically you tend to blink less because you're focusing so much on the screen, which causes a lot of eye irritation. But essentially what we are looking at is reduced screen time. Overall reduced screen time, and when you are using a screen, take frequent breaks.
Right. Let me also get, Mr. Nikhil Masurkar, who's with us. Sir, if you could explain to us, from what we are seeing, according to reports, 30% as far as children are concerned, are myopic, according to 2023 reports. And that figure is only going to go up by 20, 50, 40% of the children will be myopic. How can we prevent this?
Yeah, so as the doctors here have talked about outdoor activities for children, I think we need safe outdoor activities, safe outdoor places for children as well, where they can do a lot of their current activities, but in an outdoor setting. Like for example, if a child likes to play chess, we can have outdoor chess as well, where they can get ample sunlight, and it's a safe haven for children as well. So I think that can be done in a crafty way, so that they don't feel that they're missing out on anything. A lot of the things they do indoor can also technically be done outdoor as well. So that is one way of doing it. And then obviously in terms of mobile phones, and making sure that the right brightness and contrast settings are looked into by parents, so that or for example, using some kind of a matte screen filter, and making sure that kids don't use a phone in the dark. So the room needs to be well lit. These days, a lot of kids are in their room, they put all the lights off, and then they, kind of check their phones. So these kind of tips need to, be discussed with parents. And, I think there is a lot that we can do. And some of the solutions are not as complicated as we think it is. It's just that we need discipline in a lot of these habits. So I talked about good tech habits, and this is not just for children, it's for all of us really. But I think these points need to be emphasized very strongly, and it has to be done continuously all throughout the year.
Right. Dr. Mittal, of course, we just spoke about the brightness impact. Of course, that brightness aspect. How much light is an absolute must when it comes to a room, say, while watching TV? And what about the brightness levels of the device being used?
See, if the brightness should be at a level that it's not hurting the eye, because whenever the screen is very bright, it causes irritation. And in the room also, there should be a light behind the screen, but the light should not hit the eye.
Right. Of course, when we talk about the brightness factor, but also, when we talk about, should one be looking down at a screen or should one be looking up at a screen? Dr. Mittal.
That's a very important thing, like while watching any screen. One should not raise his head or her head to see the screen, because that widens your eye and you tend to get irritation and dry eyes. So the level of the screen should be below your eye level.
Right. And Dr. Shankar, screen time before bedtime can play havoc with one's sleep. What impact does the blue light have on one's eyes, and how much time before bedtime should one stop screen time?
So I think let's talk about, first of all, how much screen time a child should have depending on their age. So what you said, when should you introduce screen time? Ideal would be to delay the introduction of screens in the first place. So maybe introduce a child to a screen only after maybe 2 years of age. And between 2 and 6 years of age, restrict it to less than 1 hour per day. And those would be educational interactive videos which you are watching with your child. Right? So they are learning something from it. Over 6 years of age, it's very hard to commit to a specific number, because you have to individualize it as per a child. All their daily activities are different. But it would be great if screen time can be restricted to less than 2 hours a day, all inclusive. And the larger the screen, the better.
Right,
the smaller screens,
guidelines.
phones, we don't want to introduce them to phones as late as possible.
Those are guidelines that have been put out, in fact, that, a child below 2, in fact, up until at least 1 year should not be allowed screen time at all. And only after 1 to say about 2, they should be allowed only 1 hour of screen time. How impossible is this, Richa Kapoor?
Well, it is a tough thing to do, but of course quite doable. I have some non-negotiable hard stop deadlines for my son. I do not give him the phone. We use a tab when he has to, and on weekdays he knows that he cannot play on it more than 40 minutes. There are days when he doesn't even play at all. And in fact, I try to make sure that he's not traveling alone, so that we can always, talk together, talk. And I think another very important thing is, rather than just stopping them or telling them not to play, it's more about giving some better replacement for the screen. Another thing that we try to do as a family is we try to watch some shows together. So in that, there's a show, they're not watching content like reels where you are just scrolling and it's just endless, you don't know where the time is going. So when you're watching a show, you know when it starts, when it ends, you are managing the content and you are seeing it as a family.
Right. Dr. Mittal, let's talk about, does size really matter? Is it harder to focus on smaller and closer screens? Would you say in comparison to phones, one should be working on iPads and laptops or full screen televisions instead?
Phone should be avoided as far as possible because that's most accessible in the house. So the children tend to use the phones of parents or something, or some friend. So, but I think the larger the screen, lesser the eye strain.
Right, Mr. Nikhil Masurkar, the quality of air directly influences human health, and the cornea is the most sensitive structure in the human body. How damaging is the impact of pollution on our eyes?
Yeah, I mean, pollution, can obviously cause a lot of problems when it comes to eye health. It's a difficult thing to tackle because obviously, there is a balance there between looking at pollution and staying indoors, and on the other hand, being outdoors and getting the sunlight. So I think although pollution does have, and a lot of studies have shown it can have a damaging impact on the eyes, I think the concept of outdoor play and outdoor activities needs to be emphasized very strongly. There's not much that can be done, at least from a parents and teachers' perspective, to reduce pollution. So that is not something that we are trying to emphasize here. However, I think what is really important is that parents should make sure that their children should visit an eye doctor at least once a year,
Right.
irrespective of the age, and also irrespective whether the children's eyes seem to be fine. A lot of children who have vision problems will not tell their parents. They think it's a normal thing. So you need to make sure that once a year your child visits an eye doctor. An early diagnosis of eye conditions like myopia is the key
Right.
to managing it better in the future.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Masurkar, for joining us, as well as Dr. Mittal and Dr. Shankar, as well as Richa Kapoor on the broadcast with us here on NDTV 24/7.